Welcome back to As an Aggregator, a channel designed around connecting consumers to content one edge at a time. So we decided to start things off by making an attempt to double back to the original intent of this channel, which was to not just introduce playlist theory as relevant technique for content consumers to use to better organize and manage their consume digest in terms of the content that they're using or consuming. Uh, it's also to say, hey, content consumers out there, you can also become a content curator. And so I guess part of my journey is figuring out, okay, well, how do we intend to operationalize this and in what context? So, a part of that journey in terms of content marketing, we start with playlist theory, where we just dig into the bare bones of playlists themselves, YouTube as a cybernetic ecology, really stating, like, okay, based on the tools that we have at our disposal in terms of the platform of YouTube, how can we best utilize what we have at our disposal in order to be better content consumers, to spend our time more productively. So that's one. And two is on a formal analysis of content consumption. Part of the journey of content curation is not just organizing content for content consumers, but it's saying, okay, well, if the content that you curate is valuable, then to what extent and why is it valuable? Is it valuable because, you consume it as a consumer? Definitely. But to what extent are other people finding this content valuable? So, to that extent, we speak about on a formal analysis of content consumption, because yeah, just actually diving into comment sections, diving into the content that we curate specifically, and talking about, okay, well, what is this content and how does it relate to the culture in general, the culture versus a culture in terms of niche interests. Yeah, and then I guess that's on a formal analysis of content consumption doubles back to specific instances of content citation, specifically citing specific playlists, and then saying, hey, oh yeah, oh, that's an interesting play. Oh, is that a category specific playlist? Is that an ASAP playlist? Is that a temporal playlist? If you want to find our playlists, you can find them by searching for quick pick playlists in general versus just searching quick pick and changing the YouTube search filter to search for playlists specifically. But we'll get into that in the future. That's kind of the MacGuffin, actually saying, okay, well, if we're talking about Culture Commentary 1 as a category specific playlist versus Culture Commentary 2 as a category specific playlist. Okay, well, what is actually in those playlists and what happens when we actually go one layer deeper into the content labyrinth and landscape? So finally, we get to the main point of this video, which was kind of that yellow pillar when I was trying to figure out, well, what is the table of contents related to what we're thinking about, what we're speaking to when it comes to this specific channel. And one of the most important things, or at least just, what it takes to become a content creator after spending so many years as a content consumer, that's a part of this journey. It is not just to say, okay, well, this is a personal exploration in terms of being a content consumer, saying, oh, well, what has benefited my life most specifically? And what has benefited my life most specifically is content consumption. But for me, one of the strongest pillars to that extent is the subscription, quite literally. We've sought to define at least 7 pillars of YouTube. Okay, so when we speak about at least 7 pillars or the 7 pillars of YouTube, when it comes to YouTube as a cybernetic ecology. We start with the edge, and that for us represents a link or a reference. Number two is the recommendation engine. That would be your home screen on mobile, the home tab, the home screen, the recommendation engine, the home page. That's number two, the recommendation engine. And number three is the LPPV. That is a word, a phrase, or a concept. So that's most specifically related to search when we're deploying terms and languages and now even emojis in terms of tracking and tracing concepts within the YouTube hypergraph. Number four, in terms of the 7 pillars of YouTube, is the subscription box, which for me equals a live feed of interests. Number five, the shorts feed, a new introduction to the YouTube cybernetic ecology. And number six is the library. On mobile, that's now referred to as the U tab, where all of your playlists are created or saved. Important in terms of the 7 pillars of YouTube. And number seven, the most overwatched pillar or underlooked question mark is watch history. This is interesting in terms of just how I've grown to be able to use it in terms of managing my consume digest. Excuse me. Within the past year, we've explored various ideas like, okay, well, what if you've already been broken by the algorithm? How would you internalize that, and how would you react to that to the extent that it's realized or unrealized? Just to follow that as a train of thought, we decided to, there was a video that we watched from Upper Echelon. We'll probably cite it in a future video. It has a great comment section where people in the comments were recommending tweaking your watch history in terms of turning it off, in terms of pausing it, maybe even deleting your watch history, and just stipulating that effect in terms of your interaction with YouTube as a cybernetic ecology, all of these knobs and dials that you can tweak, and in terms of the effect that it has on your consume digest, on your recommendation algorithm, on your experience as a content consumer. So that led me to that led me to pause my YouTube watch history. So that was an incredibly interesting experience in terms of like actually, right, we don't realize the affordances that we have or the crutches that we have in terms of, yeah, we keep on saying YouTube as a cybernetic ecology, but just how the user interface gives us affordances. So what does that mean for me? Hey, when I see a video that I've watched, usually it's either the video's finished, there's a red bar at the bottom, or it's halfway through, or it's finished, but then it restarts sometimes. So that has a signal for me in terms of content consumption, right? I know that I've consumed this video. Along with, okay, if I'm tapping through a video, say I'm watching a video, say I'm watching another video, playlist theory, it arose from the need to be able to track and trace my subscription box. So we do want to get back to that, but the point was that, yeah, you can, okay, I'm watching a video, hey, let's add it to a playlist in order to come back to it. So in pausing our watch history, it's all of the things that, we don't know what to expect. I guess we might go into this into a future video, but the point was just, as a result of not having access to understanding where we left off in a video, that was an important part. But also, if we click a video and watch a video, if we don't add it to a playlist specifically, we might lose track of that video because we might not even be able to find it in terms of if we're using our recommendation feed or just any other myriad of ways that a video comes into our domain of awareness. Now let's double back to the subscription box. playlist theory arose out of a need to manage our subscription box. As a content consumer, the edge is a really important concept to me. It's why we use a concept like hypergraph theory when it comes to making a case for content curators as a bedrock of the content, as a bedrock of the content creation landscape, the creator landscape, if you will. Not just content consumers and content creators, but content curators as well, to the extent that consumers can find value in compressed, packaged content that adds value to what would otherwise just be their point of reference from the frame of just, their algorithm. I mean, people complain about being sandboxed into their filter bubble all the time. So yeah, curators act as a static reference frame outside of their hypergraph, outside of their 1 degree of separation, and that can be valuable in terms of just the lensing effect that algorithms have on our content consumption habits, because so much is actually just valuable in terms of just the ability to access novel titles and thumbnails. That's highly underrated, in my opinion. So I guess we were going into a story about the subscription box and what that means for me in terms of playlist theory. So far, we have over 1,000 subscriptions, probably over 1,200 subscriptions by now. And playlist theory has been a way for us to organize the velocity of content that's published in terms of, okay, well, you have all of those subscriptions, but do you just check in once in a while versus how do you maintain continuous coverage? And is that even valuable for a regular content consumer in terms of the time spent to do that versus how can you package that as a curator to be able to package your consume digest, to be able to package your subscription box as a reflection of a specific time period. So yeah, this is one of our first videos. Yeah, it's interesting to think about as a stream of consciousness. We started this off by trying to do a soft introduction and saying that what are we talking about? We're talking about as an aggregator and the core purpose, the meaning of this channel, what we seek to delve into, starting with playlist theory and describing, what goes into playlist theory, how do we structure playlists, how do we organize it, how do we manage it, and how does it enrich our experience as a content consumer. And then going one layer deeper on a formal analysis of content consumption and really talking about, okay, well, what are we consuming and what impact is it having on our experience and how are we relating to this content specifically. And then the MacGuffin, actually talking about playlists that we've curated and specific pieces of content, comparing, contrasting that, and asking consumers questions about interesting pieces of content to further the discussion going further. And then the fourth aspect was the full circle introduction to, well, how do we even manage this as a content marketing operation? What does it even mean to get to this framework, this point of view as a content consumer, right? I feel like for me, that's the hardest part. Starting out as a vehement content consumer, actively polar opposing all things and all manners of what? No. What? Why would I be a content creator? That's actually crazy. What? No, the value is in the content itself. If rule number one as a content curator is assume the content already exists in the entire landscape of content, the entire hypergraph of YouTube, if you can think of a concept, if you can find a word, if you can anchor that heuristic to the language that creators have used to tag, to index, to reference, to speak about whatever content they're talking about, and to merge that to be able to create a edge, to be able to use an LPPV, to be able to use a linguistic point plane vector to match your intent with that of a content creator and how it's synthesized in terms of machine learning to be able to create an edge for you. Right? Rule number one, the content already exists. But yeah, you can't really spread a message if, you're just consuming. And even with the techniques developed, excuse me, in order to create content or to curate content, how do you share, the things that you've curated, your personal bundles, your, that does take a sense of creation. But even in that, for me, it's been a philosophical process as much as it's been an actual technical process in terms of actually sitting down with computers, excuse me, and not just consuming content, not just curating content, but actually finding a way. Okay, well, we have to analyze like what are we actually consuming and why. So that coming full circle led me to where we find ourselves within a macro breakout cycle within a specific area of time, involving the development of what could be thought of as artificial intelligence, specifically downstream of attention is all you need, and the advent of large language models. So, on my content creation journey, my journey as a content curator, as a content consumer, as a creator, as a consumer, as a creator, as a curator, as a creator, as a curator, as a consumer. On my journey, we've utilized, or at least sought to utilize, large language models. So that was the original intent of this video, actually, to actually start with where we started. Excuse me. And one of those things was Coursera and a specific course. Specifically, we're talking about ChatGPT Advanced Data Analysis by Dr. Jules White. And in this course, they took it a step further and they went to, okay, let's click through a little bit. In this course, they went through this specific piece of work, a prompt pattern catalog to enhance prompt engineering with ChatGPT. And that was actually the intent behind this video, to actually read this paper as a form of content. So we'll probably end up diving into that in the next video. So hopefully we have a playlist that organizes our train of thought as we start chipping away one video at a time to describe and to communicate, what does it mean from our perspective to be a content consumer? What does it mean to bring forth the technique of content curation? And what underwrites it all? The content that creators create and how it impacts our cultural landscape. One piece of content at a time. This has been one of the first videos on this channel as an aggregator. Excuse me, our mic kind of got cut off. Yeah, this has been one of the original videos on this channel as an aggregator. This is a channel designed around connecting consumers to content, one edge at a time. So in this modern era where we're trying to figure out, well, what is going on this timeline, and how do we even, is it a fourth dimension, or is it the fourth dimension? And we say, hey, well, we're thinking about, okay, a side note. But yeah, as we think about these things, This is a piece of content, and this is also an edge. So if if you have found value in this content, and you're interested in sort of building your knowledge base in terms of how you think about interacting with large language models, this is an interesting place to start in terms of a prompt pattern catalog. Um, yeah, until next time, this has been the YouTube channel as an aggregator.